And here we are in our third and last episode of the Jewish Golden Age of Al-Andalus, part 3, Samuel Ibn Gabirol and Solomon or Shlomo Ibn Gabirol. For those who don't know, Solomon or Shlomo is Hebrew for Solomon. It's the same thing. And yes, Samuel, who is Shemu'el. So I might use them a bit back and forth, but hopefully you know that it's the same thing. The lives of these two people, they're very different. Their roles are very different, but their lives are interconnected quite a bit. So we'll go to our first real slide, and as usual, as often as desirable, I like to portray an overview of history, of what we are. We're still on the Iberian Peninsula, also known as Spain and Portugal. Then here's another slide. The time of Al-Rahman. You see, if you go back and forth, you see that the red, the Christian part, has expanded quite a bit. 720 is very early. This is 921. See, so that is 150 years later. You see that the Christian territory has expanded, and this is the time also of Hazdai ibn Shaprut, Menachem ben Saruk, and Dunash ibn Labrat. Go to another slide. So this is what we were talking about. Now it becomes the Caliphate of Cordoba. See that? The same people, approximately, and also the same a little bit more territory. See that? 2148. So even in less than 20 years, the Christians have reconquered. Still not a small piece. I mean, on the map it doesn't look big, but it's territory. You know. Now we go to the next. 64, same territory. This is Al-Hakam, that didn't last so long. 99, this is Al-Manṣūr. And now we go to, this is after Al-Manṣūr. I hope you remember, the caliphate fell apart. There's a civil war. Everything falls, the whole Cordoba is looted. And Hisham, the little boy who grew up, was more like a puppet caliph. And he was kept in place because people still respected the old Umayyad Caliphate with such a long history. But you see, there are all these small states. And these mini states, as you see here on the bottom right, are called taifas. That is from an Arabic word taifa, which means party. So there's the parties with their own territory, basically. See, Valencia is big. Number 1 and 2 is Al-Puente and Al-Baracin are small, and then you have Denia, Murcia, all small mini kingdoms. The Caliphate of Cordoba is still there, but if you continue, this is interesting. Not continuing, but I have a video. There's a video of how Christianity lost and then regained territory in the Iberian Peninsula, and I superimposed the names of the people that we know. Now, I'm going to play it. It's only a few minutes, but it gives a really interesting idea about what's happening. And you see the date on the right, you see the date moving. Now, if there's a name of somebody that we know who actually lived on the Iberian Peninsula, it's in black. If not, it's not on the black background. And if the person is part of the Christian Islamic world, his name is written in white letters, and if it's outside if it's in the Christian world, it's in yellow letters. So let me just play it, and you'll see. And I think it would be it's useful. Hold on, I'm going to put this aside. Here we go. the end of it. Okay, I thought it was fun, right? You can play it yourself. I will send a link to the separate thing and also put it in the video. Good. Let's continue. No, yeah. Okay, so here's another map. So this is about the family of Ibn Gabirol. We started Ibn Gabirol a bit, and we go back to him later. Ibn Gabirol lived in Cordoba, so that was during the time of the Caliphate of Cordoba, and they were wealthy because Cordoba was a very flourishing place and gave a lot of opportunities to people. But then, when the Caliphate fell apart, and we spoke about that last class, Cordoba was looted and wasn't safe, and they fled to Malaga. Now you see I wrote down on the map where that is. That's in the south. It's at the coast. And they fled in 1013, and that's where Solomon or Solomon Ibn Gabirol was born. Now, if we go to the next slide. Now here you see these mini-states. This is the era of the taifas, of the mini-states. Around, that lasted about 50 years. So 56 years. Not so long, but still a lifetime, basically, right? Now, in the north, you have the dark orange. Sorry, I couldn't find a map that was not in Spanish, but Reinos y Condados Cristianos, Christian kingdoms and Christian, independent states. That's in the top. But now all these taifas, all these mini-states have different identities. So the yellow ones are Arabic mini-states, Arabic taifas. You still have, if you see towards the bottom, Cordoba is still there, but it's so much smaller. Then the blue ones are Berber taifas. They're ruled by Berber dynasties. There's 3 right there. Older Berber dynasties have been there for quite a while. Slavic taifas, well, that's so interesting. We mentioned that a bit when we talked about the diverse society of Al-Andalus, that a considerable, an interesting chunk of the population were Slavic people. How did the Slavic people, I don't know which ones, they could have been Serbians, Russians, Polish people, but Slavic people had been captured and as slaves, brought there as slaves, fought often in wars, like slaves were often used in the army. But then sometimes they are released or they escape and they organize themselves, and so they actually had their own dynasties, their own kingdoms. Almeria, Murcia, Denia, Valencia, Badajoz, those are all kingdoms, so to say. I don't know if they all had the title king. Some of them had the title king, but others had the title emir or whatever it is. But Slavic people, very interesting, right? I don't know also if they still spoke Slavic or they spoke a type of Spanish or they spoke Arabic. That is all probably dependent on, it's not probably different from place to place. Then you have Muladi taifas. Does anyone still remember what Muladis were? Makaya, do you remember what a Muladi is? Makaya might not even be here. It's so hard to teach without seeing all the faces. It's really so hard. But in any case, anyone? Nicholas? Natalie? Or Kevin? Anaya? No one. Okay, Muladi, I'm going to ask, there's at least one question going to be about these groups that existed, because you have to understand society to understand what's happening. Muladis were people, indigenous Spanish people, who had converted to Islam. So they are often, well, Old Spanish, and it's probably mixed with Arabic and maybe Berber words. By the way, Spanish still has a number of Arabic words, but it's actually surprising how little, after so much time of Arabic, of Islamic domination, it's almost very, very remarkable how few words, relatively speaking, there are in Spanish of Arabic descent. But there are some, especially in geographical names. Nonetheless, okay, so these are Muladis, spoke some kind of old Spanish, but they were Muslims, so a Muslim dynasty of Spanish people. And then you had New Berber taifas. Those are Berber tribes who had immigrated into the Iberian Peninsula later. often with their militias, and they had also, and therefore they're also more in the south because they're new arrivals from the south, and uh, they had established their own dynasties: Malaga, Granada, Algeciras, all these important. If you're a European, you would have known maybe these because people go there on vacation to these places. In any case, those are all these typos. It's a mess, right? It's a bit of a mess. Okay, let's continue. Each of these mini states, this is kind of interesting. And let's go let me start. Is Makaya here, by the way? Let me look.
Yeah.
Very nice. So can you please read something?
Oh, yeah. Each of these new mini-states, taifas, tried to copy the glorious example of what the Caliphate of Cordoba once had been.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them appointed Jews in high positions, just as had happened in Cordoba.
Yeah, you might remember that to appoint another Muslim could be tricky because they could be in cahoots with a competing Muslim state or a competing Muslim family. But there's constantly families and rulers were overthrown. So you never know if your right hand man is going to be bribed by an opponent. So and because he wants to take over. So that is it's always a bit tricky. It's not that it didn't happen, but there's a risk. If you use somebody from the Christian minority, they might be a spy of the kingdoms in the north. But a Jew is most likely going to be loyal because he has nothing to gain with a change of regime, right? So if there's a change of regime, usually he uses his job. He's not going to have any aspirations to take over power because the community of the Jewish community is so small. There's not enough basis of support. And why would they support Christians in the north? Later, in a later stage, that might have happened when the Islamic rulers became intolerant. So maybe then, but then the Jews also were not really used. So I mean, it was advantageous for in many cases, to use a Jew in a high position, and that was good for the Jews, right? Yes.
The Taifa of Granada was ruled by a Berber emir called Habus al-Muzaffar.
Muzaffar, yeah, you pronounce it really well. Habus al-Muzaffar, Granada, right? You see, it's a beautiful location. So this is one of these Berbers. Berbers come from North Africa, was settled in Spain and started their own dynasty. Yeah, Granada. Next.
His prime minister was Samuel Ibn Nagrilah, also known among Jews as Shemu'el haNagid.
Yeah. Now, there's so many ways to call him. Somebody said Nagrella, Nagrella, Nagrilla, Nagrilla. So any of the above. But Shemu'el is his Hebrew name. Samuel might be easier. But Ha means the, so haNagid is the Nagid. Nagid is a title you will have to know because I'm going to come across that more often. Nagid means head of the Jewish community. At least in the Middle Ages in Arabic countries, that was the term. And some Nagids were more powerful than others, because let's say if you're the Nagid over Granada, okay, that's over Granada. But let's say in Egypt, later we're going to talk about Maimonides. He was a Nagid of Egypt, but at a certain point, the rulers of Egypt also ruled over the whole Middle East. So then you're the Nagid of a much bigger community. But nonetheless, Nagid is very influential. And usually the Jews chose as their Nagid somebody who was close to the ruler, to the court, because it's good to have somebody in a high place that can advocate for your interests. Yes?
Samuel started as a shopkeeper in Cordoba. He fled from there during the Civil War and then opened up a shop in Granada. Samuel was quite learned. Among other things, he had studied Talmud and grammar, and he was fluent in Arabic and Hebrew. Samuel was also an accomplished poet.
Yeah, being fluent in Arabic is going to be very handy for him, and you will know why. So, can advise anyone to study Arabic. It might come in handy. It's not the same now, of course, but still handy. Okay, yeah.
Samuel's career was nothing short of remarkable. It started with delivering herbs and spices to the palace, then writing letters on behalf of the emir, who was Berber and not a native speaker.
Yeah, see, so the Berber, look, Arabic is the official language. Berber is the spoken language, but Arabic is the official language, and it's the religious language, and it's a language of prestige, right? And if you send a letter to another Islamic ruler, it has to be in Arabic, and your administration has to be in Arabic. So, but the Berber doesn't speak really Arabic well, just a bit. But now he knows this. The guy who sells him his cumin and his cardamom seeds. He is really good in Arabic, so he's going to use him and eventually more to write the letters for him because he knows it's really good Arabic. And it means he also wrote Arabic well in Arabic script, which is not all the Jews, a lot of Jews only knew to write it with Hebrew script, but he knew it with Arabic script. So he's using him more to write letters than for his pepper, right? Yeah.
Samuel became the emir's advisor, next his tax collector, and finally his first minister.
Yeah, so it's a flashing career, right? It's interesting. Yeah.
Samuel even became the head of the emir's army, a Jew in command of a Muslim army.
Yeah, why do I have these three dots and the exclamation sign? What is so remarkable about that, Micaiah?
Because he was in a high position, and I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe I remind you that the Pact of Omar. Remember the Pact of Omar, right? You spoke about that a lot.
It didn't allow Jews to be in high positions.
Not only that, but also not to carry weapons, and not to carry weapons even. But now because I guess maybe why it doesn't say, but because if they have weapons, they can actually turn against you. Now this Jew doesn't just have a weapon; he is the head of an army, right? So that is extremely remarkable, right? Yeah.
Yeah. In addition, Samuel Ibn Gabirol became the head of the Jewish community, the haNagid, and promoted Jewish learning, very much like Hasdai ibn Shaprut had done before him.
Yeah, excellent. Let me see where we are. All right, we'll do one more, and then I have to switch to someone else probably.
Under his lead, the Talmud Academy in Granada flourished and attracted students from far and wide. One of the students there was Rabbi Maimon ben Yosef, Maimonides' father. Samuel haNagid himself wrote in Talmud and on Jewish law as well. Yeah, so he was remarkable. He wasn't only good at selling herbs; he also was good in literary Hebrew and Arabic. He's an organizer, Talmud school, Talmud scholar himself, Jewish law, all kinds of stuff. And you'll see also a very gifted poet. Now I will see, is Nicholas here? Is Nicholas here?
Hello?
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 Hi, Nicholas, is it you?
Yeah.
Can I ask you to read the next slide? This is a poem by Samuel the haNagid.
The house of learning, could time turn on the scholars, or have they turned on the Torah, and bequeathed it to stuffed old fools in robes? One needs, it seems, only fringes, a turban, and a beard to head the academy now. My brother, remember the day we passed, the house of prayer, on the day of willows, and heard up close a donkey bray, and crows crying low. And I asked, is the Lord's house now a dairy farm? This is a sin and disgrace. And they told me there are no fatlings or mules in the house of the Lord. They're studying Talmud. Then I answered from scripture, they've changed the instructions and Torah. And as for me, where can I turn?
So he heard a kind of sound that he didn't like. It's probably, I can only guess because I don't know, but sometimes people chant Talmud or in a very peculiar way. Oh, yeah, oh. And he thinks that's not a normal way of speaking. That is maybe it sounds like an animal sound. So, and he feels that is unworthy, and he goes in. What has happened then? This is, by the way, it doesn't sound like like we read it, but it is really a poem, right? So there's a lot of puns and allusions to Torah texts, etc. But we'll just continue. Nicholas?
So we walked on in anger into the house of God. You couldn't help find it. And we saw the teacher and students, bobbing their heads like friends, as their mouths abused the names of the great. The teacher expounded at length, preying on every sound they made, and I sat there enraged at the sight, and my soul grew sad. I asked the good teacher after his health, but he answered as a man of strife, and he started reciting the hundred blessings in a coarse voice like an army of horde. And he thanked the Lord, who had made him a man and not a woman. And I told him, "You flaunt your phallic soul, but the Lord will prove you hollow."
So this is it's quite a criticism of a certain way of religiosity. It's like the person that there's the idea in Judaism that there's throughout the day you say blessings over when you eat an apple you say blessing, and the blessing is blessed are you, O Lord, King of the universe, our God, King of the universe, who created the fruit of the tree. And so there's for many different occasions there are different blessings. And there's also the daily prayer consists of blessings, and before and when you get up there's blessings, and there's when you after you go to the bathroom there's blessings. It's like the whole day is full of blessings. So the idea is that if you do it well, you say 100 blessings a day. But this person starts reciting, showing off that he knows 100 blessings, and so he and one of them is who made me a man and not a woman, and this person says, "Don't be so proud of that. You may be so proud to be a man and not a woman, but you are hollow, meaning it's just the outside. I don't see any seriousness or spirituality or culture in you." That's basically a very how do you say, harsh judgment. But of course I wasn't there, so I cannot see it, but it's sharp. It's very sharp. Right. So he also, is a man who had come from low and who had reached great height in his career. And so you never get to have such a career if you don't have somewhat of an ego. Now, an ego sounds very bad, but if you don't have self-worth and you're not very secure of yourself, and people secure of yourself are sometimes harsh in their way of addressing other people. And I'm talking too long. I should be harsher on myself here. Okay, here we go. This is another one. It's very short, Nicholas, but it's fun. He has puns. It's really very nice. Good, sharp. Yeah.
Buying books. One who works to buy himself books, while his heart inside is vain or corrupt, resembles a cripple who draws on the wall 100 legs, then can't get up.
Yeah, funny, right? So if you have books, but you don't internalize what you learn, and you just, and the books, look, in those days, books were very expensive. It's not just, you can't buy on Amazon a book for $20. That is all handwritten. There's no printing press. So every book has to be copied by hand. So you can imagine people work really long to copy a book, and so you have to be paid hourly wage or whatever. And so books are a status symbol in a way. So if you buy these books but you're not really becoming a better person for what you learn, then that's totally useless. It's like drawing legs on the wall. I like this one very much. This is a very nice one. I love it. Nicholas.
If you leave a long-loved friend today in disgust, you'll be like a man destroying a building that took him a year to raise from the dust.
Isn't that beautiful? Now you can have a long-lasting friendship with somebody and something wrong is said, and both of you are stubborn, and now you don't forgive, or you can't get over it. Bye. And that's over. And friendships are very important. Okay. You want to do, maybe we'll do one more? Yeah, this is also, I think it's very good. Mm-hmm.
It's the heart that discerns between evil and good, so work to develop your heart. How many are there who heartlessly destroy and think that destruction's a start?
Yeah. Some people think, well, there's something rotten with the system or with the society. Let's destroy and start from scratch. But destroying never is a good start. Improving is something. It's really good. And you have to adjust things. But destruction hardly ever. There's a bomb. There's a photo here of this explosion of ISIS, who destroyed all these old monuments that were really very, that were priceless for to understand history, to study history. But the idea was, it's going to be a new era now under the our caliphate, and let's destroy everything that came before us. Well, the end is now just destruction. That doesn't bring anything good. Now, is Natalie here? Yes, you are here, right? I saw you. Natalie, did you want to read this? This is it's also a priceless one. I'm so happy I found this one.
Luxuries ease, but when troubles come, people are plagued for the wealth they've accrued. The peacock's tail is spectacular, but it weighs him down on the days he's pursued.
Yeah, you can have all this. Let's say you have all these beautiful either jewelry, or you have statues and art in your house, and now you have to go somewhere because of an emergency, and to save yourself, let's say there's a war coming up, but you're staying behind because you can't say goodbye to all these things that you've accrued, basically. So that is, it's beautiful. Things could beautify your life, but they also make you less flexible. Cute photo, right? Okay. Yeah.
Come up and see where goats now camp, the court of the patron, and you used to frequent. These remains neither door nor threshold within it, nor a dog to water the walls with his scent.
Yeah. So there's a castle, and this person was a benefactor and would give out things, and you would look at the castle. Oh, there lives this important lord who helps the poor, and I'm going to ask him for a favor, this or that. But as things change, now the person is nowhere anymore. There's not even a door in his house. He's gone. This is quite deep. Ibn Gabirol, as you know, was the head of an army, so he had to go out with his army on excursions. Is not the right word, but on raids and on battles and stuff, and travel and sleep somewhere in the field. And I quartered the troops for the night. He's very much aware of, because if you're in the army and you see people die, either killed by your side or people on your side are killed by the others, you know how vulnerable life is. And then in the olden days, before antibiotics and before modern medicine and stuff, people died of the most silly wounds. You can have a small wound and dirt comes into it. You don't know how to clean it, and you get blood poisoning and you die. And people died from the tooth in root canal infection and stuff. It goes to the brain. There you go, dead. So he has a lot about death. So we'll see. Can you read this one?
Yeah. I quartered the troops for the night. I quartered the troops for the night in a fortress which soldiers destroyed long ago, and they fell asleep at its walls and foundations while its masters were sleeping below. I wondered.
Oh, sorry. Who are the masters who are sleeping below? Is it the bunk beds that you sleep below? No, that means that the masters of the old castle, that's now a ruin, they're buried below them. So they're sleeping, and below them are graves, basically. Yeah.
I wondered what had become of the people who dwelled here before that disaster. Where were the builders and soldiers, the wealthy and the poor, the slaves and their masters, the bereaved and the women in labor, the sons and their fathers, the mourners and grooms? Great nations had come and gone in succession in the course of years and of moons. They settled across the face of the earth, but rest in the heart of the ground. Their magnificent palaces turned into tombs, their pleasant courts into a mound. And if they could lift their heads and emerge, they'd take our lives, our goods, and our worth. In truth, my soul, in truth, and quite soon, I'll be just like them and sleep in the earth.
It's true. I have to say, break the bad news, but life is very short. And soon enough, it's over before you know it. So you better use every moment to the fullest. And then we're just like all the other people. And within a century, nobody thinks of us anymore. It's the truth. I'm sorry. Okay. But we're still talking about Ibn Gabirol. So that's maybe because he wrote poetry. So I could recommend poetry. This is about the person's life. Nobody has an idea, or else, yeah? Does it look like someone? No? I use my own photos in this poem. Okay. Natalie, can you read this one?
Yeah. A child at 1 or 2 crawls like a snake on the floor, and at 10 he skips his father like a kid among goats on the hills. At 20, love in his heart takes hold, and he struts for girls. He basks in the glories of youth for his pride and power at 30. Reaching 40, he ripens and joins the elders, his friends. At 50, the sleep of his youth in whiteness is brought to an end. The terrors of time assault him when a man passes 60 in years, till 70, and then he sighs with age, and he seems to be saintly.
Yeah, I couldn't get any photos of myself beyond 60. So this is my father, and the other is like a photo program. I could use my own photo and make me look old. That's when I'm 100. Okay, hopefully. Okay, yeah?
Time surrounds him at 80, trapped in the fowlery snare.
Fowler's snare.
Fowler's snare.
That's a fowler is somebody who catches fowl, means birds, basically. Yeah. Bird catcher, sorry.
And at 90, he can't distinguish between the plow and the scythe. At 100, who gets to 100? Men is amazement approached him. When he dies, he lies with maggots, repulsive to one and all. So it's right that I wax melancholic from time to time in my soul.
Yeah, it's another uplifting poem. Okay. Thank you so much, Natalie. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Kevin. Hello. Loud and clear. Man runs towards the grave. We're in the mood, so let's continue on this path.
Man runs towards the grave, and rivers hasten to the great deep. The end of all living is their death, and the palace in time becomes a heap. Nothing is further than the day gone by, and nothing nearer than the day to come. And both are far, far away from the man hidden in the heart of the tomb.
Yeah. Okay. On that happy note, this was he wrote this the day after he buried his brother Shemu'el haNagid, or Samuel the Nagid. A day ago I buried you. It's the name of the poem.
Lo, I return with my soul in torment. May God have mercy upon you, my brother. A day ago I buried you, but even now my complaint is bitter. Greetings I bring you, do you not hear? When I call to you with all my might, answer me. Do you not recognize the response of my crying lament?
Lament.
Lament. Are your bones starting to wither and your teeth loosening in your jaw? Has your moistness fled in the night, even as mine is running in my tears? O firstborn of my father, I have left you as security in the hand of my Creator, whose assurance I trust that you will go in peace.
Well, that's a consolation. He believes that his soul is in God's hands, but nonetheless, he has a hard time accepting it. So, right? It's also natural. Of all the people that Samuel haNagid sponsored, because he sponsored a lot of people, as we saw, he sponsored scholars and poets. Undoubtedly, the most famous of them all is our main character of today, Solomon, or Solomon Ibn Gabirol. Now, we know he was born in 1021, but we're not 100% sure when he died. Some say 1050, others say 1070. That's a big difference. Because if it's 1050, then he only lived 29 years. So on that lifespan, 20 different years make a big difference. So 29, let's hope so the oldest that they think is 49. Let's hope he made it to 49. At least it is something. 29 is very young. But he didn't have an easy life, as we will see. This is Ibn Gabirol. Okay. Solomon's parents, that's Ibn Gabirol, died when he was still very young. We spoke already about him, right? That they fled from Cordoba. And he was very young, and they left him no relatives at all. He was just alone. Luckily, his father had been a prominent figure with a lot of friends, and One of these friends lived in Saragossa. Saragossa is in the north. You see the arrow on the river Ebro. He lived in Saragossa and he became his caretaker. His name is, you don't have to memorize it, Yekutiel ibn Hassan al-Mutawakkil ibn Qabrun. That should say Yekutiel. Yekutiel is fine. That is hard enough. Oh, sorry. Yekutiel with a long last name. So Saragossa, or as they say in Spanish, Zaragoza. Kevin, you can read one more if you don't mind.
Thanks to his parents' inheritance and to Yekutiel's support, Ibn Gabirol didn't need to work. It so happened that he was a brilliant young man. Ibn Gabirol studied Talmud, grammar, philosophy, geometry, astronomy, and on top of that, he was a very talented poet.
Yeah, so people still use his poetry. It's remarkable, of course. Here's one. It begins, you think it's a love poet, where he's singing praises to a lovely lady, but you'll see it's actually, it gets a turn. This is the first, there's 2 pages. This is the first page. Do you mind reading it? Or I can also, you already read a bit, right? Shall I continue to someone else? Oh yeah, okay, if you want, you can read.
A dove you Sharon rose with skirts all hung with bells, all hung with golden pomegranates, like the very robes of priests. As you come my way, you seem to rise like the very sun in heaven. Sit here by me, O loveliest gazelle, and stir your lover's pleasure. Take up the drum and lute, accompany your singing with a 10-stringed harp. So
he's telling her, come and play music, you lovely girl, you. But what's the idea? Is she going to play for him? It says, stir your lover's pleasure. Who is she supposed to play for? So it continues here. This is the rest of the poem, Kevin.
Rise and praise your love, your favorite Yekutiel, the Lord of
potentates. Yeah, that's basically, powerful people.
Illusion of the world's foundation, the man on whom the pillars of the heavens rest secure. Rulers repose their hopes in him, and countries hang upon his every word. He works to weariness on their behalf, to way a father works to feed his children. He has a very kind word for every man. And then there are his gifts, worth more than pearls. His spirit is benign, his heart is liberal, his lips are trustworthy ever. A Lord of veritable sky above the earth, with hands like clouds for bounty. When they dry up, the people perish, but when they pour, they fill the folk with song. May God fulfill his wishes speedily, and may my wishes be consigned to him.
So he's really praising Yekutiel, which is normal. If you are a poet and you have a patron, somebody who protects you, supports you, at least you do them a favor by writing nice poetry in their honor, and that's what he did. And I'm sure he meant it. It's not because he owes a lot to Yekutiel. But if you see here, it's actually a very interesting twist. It starts as a love poem, right? He's praising this girl, but the girl is now sitting down and within all her beauty and playing her instrument. But it turns. It's not for him. It's for Yekutiel. So it's actually dedicating her beauty and her talent with the purpose that she praises Yekutiel, who is such a generous man, powerful, and he gives to the poor, and he gives advice, and he advocates for so many people. Okay, now you did a good job, Kevin. Thank you so much. Rachel, I think you're there, right, Rachel?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello, Rachel.
Hi.
Maybe you can take over?
Yeah. On the one hand, Ibn Gabirol had great self-confidence. To the wine pourer, don't be self-satisfied or vain, that people clamor for your wine. Your craft is healing people's bodies, healing people's soul is mine.
Yeah. So he likes to praise himself too. And so great self-confidence is almost an understatement. He's a bit full of himself. Now, often you will see that people are full of themselves. It can be and often is a mechanism to hide some insecurity or some inner pain. So you compensate it with overconfidence sometimes. That's what happens, right? To people. And this is probably the same. He had a very hard life. First of all, we already know that he was quite young. He was an orphan, and then he's dependent on other people. And there's other things you're going to find out about that are really hard for him. But his temperament and his character is not pleasant to deal with. It's very hard to deal with him. So he's actually boasting. So he's saying, you lift up people's spirits, but I lift up people's souls. It's not too bad. It's nice, actually. It's okay to say that of yourself if you believe it. But there's going to be other examples where he really goes a bit far with his self-confidence. This is a bit stronger even, Rachel.
A prince I am, and poems are my subjects. A lyre I am for bards and singers all. My songs are coronets for kings, and turbans for the heads of courtiers. I've only 16 years, not one day more, but wisdom like a man who's lived fourscore.
Do you know what that means, fourscore?
4 times over?
Close, 4. But do you know what a score is? It's a bit of an unused word now. No?
It's a time frame.
What?
A time frame.
Yeah, but how much?
I think it's 100 years?
No, he's not. He
50
didn't live
years?
400 years. But score means 20. So fourscore is 80. Yeah. So if you have older books, you sometimes see this lasted 3 score, and that just means 60. You know? Yeah. So it says, I'm only 16 years old, but I have the wisdom of somebody of 80. Well, that is so that is quite something to say that about yourself. Okay. Yes.
Because of his angry temperament and his sharp pen, Ibn Gabirol made many enemies. However, as long as Yakutiel was around, he was protected. I'm loyal to my friends with all my heart. I always honor those who honor me. My tongue is sharp as any court scribe's pen. Praise a friend, crush an enemy.
Yeah, so beware of me. If you make me your enemy, I will crush you with my pen. This is another one, yeah?
The father of all sages ordered us to keep away from strife and bickering.
So who is the father of all sages, you think, Rachel?
God.
Yeah, but I would write it with that's very, very good guess. But I would write father with a capital F, most likely. Just one more guess.
The head of the Jewish people at the time.
No, actually, Moshe Rabbeinu, the prophet Moses.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you go picking fights and altercations, besides committing every heinous sin. Beware an arrow, sharp and high-honed. Beware the blazing blade of spear and sword. If peace you want, I'll gladly be your slave, but if we fight, I'll end up as your lord.
Yeah, funny, huh? Okay, but now, yeah, this is the painful part. Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, Ibn Gabirol was very sickly and led a miserable life, both physically and emotionally. He thought of himself as short and ugly, and he suffered under a very painful condition, probably tuberculosis of the skin.
Yeah, and now you can heal it, but in those days he had something like that. You just had to live with it. There's no cure. And pretty horrible. It causes horrible scars, horrible pains. And so, and makes you very ugly. So also it gives you, especially when you're young and or even not young, even that makes you very insecure also. Okay. Yeah, here's another poem that describes his horrible situation.
Suffering has turned me scrawny. If you could throw me into the eye of someone asleep, I'd not be felt. The ring that was once snug around my finger, I'll wear around my waist.
As a belt. Yeah. I didn't hear the as a belt part. But yeah, thank you so much. Good reading. Alex, are you available?
Hello?
Hi,
Hello?
Alex. Hi.
Hi.
Roger, do you read me? Okay, it's your turn.
At 17 years old, Ibn Gabirol
Gabirol.
wrote an Azhara. An Azhara is a long poem that lists all 613 commandments from the Torah.
It's
And
called Azhara, it's called, yeah, but it's fine. Mhm.
In many Sephardi communities, his
Azharot.
Azharat are read during the holiday of Shavuot.
Oh, I really get you the hard ones, Alex. Shavuot, which is a holiday.
On the first day, the positive commandments are read, thou shalt, blah, blah, blah. And the prohibitions are read on the second day, thou shalt not, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, thou shalt not kill is a negative commandment and prohibition. A positive commandment is thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So there are positive and negative ones, and all the commandments together are 613, and he wrote them all in rhyme. Now he's not the first one to do that. Sa'ad on also had one, but his are the most famous ones, and they are read in Sephardi synagogues once a year, every holiday, Shavuot. I should probably write the Festival of Weeks is probably easier to read because, okay, I'm going to make a note. I'm going to change it. Okay. The positive commandments. Here is here's an example. And let me look at the Hebrew. I wrote the first letters of the first words of the introduction. I printed bigger and in slightly blue. Shemor libi ma'aneh, aya bim'od na'aneh. See, that's a rhyme. Yereh ha'el umaneh, devarim haisharim. Every 2 lines, every second line ends with rim, but if you look at these first letters, it spells his name, Shlomo ben Yehuda, Solomon, the son of Judah. Just read the English, Alex, if you don't mind.
My soul, uphold the right response. Be exceedingly responsive. Revere God and recount these proper words. I led you out, I cautioned you on straightforward paths. I guide you. Of the awe-inspiring God, proclaim his oneness twice a day. Each evening, mornings too, while you're praying every day. His words place on your hearts as a cure, and in your mouth. Write them on the posts of your doors and your gates. Always repeat them for your children and for your student. Find occasion for 100 blessings total.
There's the 100 blessings again I just mentioned. But I just have a few examples. This is pages and pages, of course. But to make it rhyme and also with a meter and a pattern, that's quite an attempt. And I have a few examples of the negative commandments, the prohibitions.
In the shadow of the Almighty do I hide. I will not hide his justice, which are found in his prohibitions, but I will proclaim his straight instructions. I am.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I am the Lord, is what I called out to you at Mount Sinai. You shall not have other gods before me. Do not make a statue in wickedness and stupidity. Do not place an idol invoking my envy through alien practice. Keep the law against adultery unless you meet with divine anger. Do not contemplate theft and don't covet what belongs to your friend. Do not swear a false oath. Do not oppress the orphan. Do not pervert justice, provoking incitement.
That same year when Ibn Gabirol is 17 years old, Yekutiel is assassinated, so he also has enemies, right? And he wrote the following poem, Alex.
Behold the sun at evening red, as if she wore vermilion robes. She slips the wraps from north to south, dressing the west in purple gown, and strips the earth and leaves it bare to dwell in shadows throughout the night. At once the sky is black, as if in sackcloth for you could tell.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't manage to make this into an English rhyme. It sounds better, but you read it really well. So it's a dirge. It's a poem in mourning of Yekutiel, his benefactor. But he made so many enemies, and Yekutiel, his protector, isn't there. So now what, right? Luckily for Solomon, Samuel the haNagid, he spoke about, who was in Granada, emerges as his new supporter and protector, and he invites him over to Granada. He thinks, oh, this Ibn Gabirol is a gifted scholar, young, but and an amazing poet. So you know what? Let's enrich the court of Granada and the learning in Granada, and we'll invite him. So, and he needs somebody anyway. So yes, Solomon Ibn Gabirol moves to Granada. So I'm going to ask, and thank you, Alex. Cassandra, you are there, I think. I saw you.
Yeah,
You were one of the very first to sign in. Would you like to read a bit?
sure. When Ibn Gabirol was 19 years old, he wrote a 400-verse acrostic poem in which he described the rules of Hebrew grammar.
Yeah, so he explains all of grammar in rhyme. This is pretty amazing. By the way, it's been done in Arabic too. So, but he did it for Hebrew. 19 years old. Can you imagine you writing? That's around your guys' age. You're probably even a little older than most of you. Some of them you might be 19, but many of you might be one or a few years older. Imagine describing all of English grammar in a long poem. That would be something else, right? Okay. Yes, and this is not grammar. I'm not going to torture you with a poem on grammar, but this is a song. It's called Bakasha, which is some communities read just to start before the morning service, just to get into the hang of it. Now look on the bottom. Those Hebrew letters, and many of you don't maybe read Hebrew, and you read from right to left. But look at the line. So the straight line again is a long. Syllable, and that little, how do you say, cup, is a short syllable. So it is long, long, short, long, 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 short, long, long, long. The second half, long, long, short, long, 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 short, long, long, long. So that is his pattern. That's the whole, that's 4 lines. So Cassandra, could you read the English?
At dawn I seek you, my rock and my fortress. I spread out before you my morning and evening prayer. In front of your greatness I stand, and I am perplexed, for your eye perceives my every inner thought. What can the heart and the tongue accomplish? To achieve in what's my strength, my spirit inside me. Surely you are pleased with the song of man, therefore I will praise you as long as my God-granted soul is within me.
Yeah, I like it, but I also like it because I know the tune. It's a very pleasant tune, and they sing it in Amsterdam, in the Sephardi congregation in Amsterdam sings it before the prayer starts. It's voluntary, but I've heard it being done. It goes like this. It's fun, right? I hope you like it. Okay. This is another poem by Ibn Gabirol. This is read on Rosh Hashanah and sung also. It's not such an upbeat tune compared to this one. And I will not torture you with my singing in this case, unless you insist. It's called Shofet Kol Haaretz, Judge of all the Earth. And I have to say, I took somebody else's translation. It's not very literally translated. I can say that. It's a free translation, but fine. It's all good. Cassandra, would you care to read this?
Sovereign judge of all the earth, you call it to judgment. Bind on your troubled people a wreath of life and favor. Accept our morning prayer in place of a sacrifice, as an offering of the morning which burns in our heart always. O enrobed in justice, you alone are supreme. Even if we lack good deeds, recall our fathers sleeping in their grave in Machpelah.
Machpelah, right? That's the name of the place where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried.
May their everlasting memory come before you, O Lord, as an offering of the morning which burns in our heart always.
Yeah. So basically, you're asking for on Rosh Hashanah to God to remember you, but also to remember the good deeds of the ancestors, and maybe that will also help basically. Good. Now he's 25 years old, and Ibn Gabirol writes a book. Still young, 25, and he already wrote so much. Improvement of character traits. Kitab Islah al-Akhlaq in Arabic, and in Hebrew it's translated Tikkun Midot HaNefesh. So improvement of the traits of the character. It's interesting because we already heard that, and you'll see it more. He has such hard times with his own character traits. He has a temperament. He loses his temper. He can be angry at people. He makes enemies. If you make a lot of enemies, you're not the most pleasant person usually. So this is a manual for moral improvement. Now the thing is very interesting. I thought about it. Why would he, of all people, write a guide to improve our personality traits? I would think that he's struggling with it, so he's interested in the topic. Some people have. God forbid, some kind of a condition. Maybe they have a disease, and sometimes that inspires them to study the condition, and they become great doctors or healers or therapists in that specific field. So it's actually beautiful. If you have a flaw in your life, you should try to become it's a good way to deal with it, not to ignore it, but to actually look at it carefully and to become an expert and to try to improve yourself. But then you can also help other people who are struggling with the same problem. So it's really I like it, the idea. It's improvement of characters. Cassandra, maybe your last slide, and then I'll go to Brittany after that.
According to Ibn Gabirol, the senses are not the agents of our virtues or vices, but only the instruments.
Yeah, that's what people thought. So, well, you say, well, I couldn't control myself. This food, I know it's bad for me, but I overate and it was dumb. But the smell, I couldn't control the smell. So the smell is one of your senses. The smell forced you to eat it, or the sight. It says, no, that is not. You cannot blame the smell. It's your inner will, it's your inner decision that does it. Also, I slept with my secretary, but I can't help it. She's so beautiful. Well, that's a lame excuse, because your eyes, you can't blame your eyes, or you can't the sight of somebody to. No, you have to. It's your own will, but people use that. Actually, in the New Testament, there's a text: if your eye, tempt you to sin, it's bad. Your right eye, better to pull out your right eye and you go into heaven with one eye, better than go into hell with two eyes. But he's saying, no, it's not the eye that does it. And I'm sure Jesus, who said that, knew that. It's probably more metaphor than anything else. But some people have believed in the past that really the senses are strong and we cannot always control it. He denies that. Once again, I go on too long about a little detail, and you probably got that already. Okay, continue, please.
We should train our will to the right behavior and our soul to understanding itself. Remarkably, he did not refer to religion at all in this book, nor in the next.
So he proves to be actually a very a modern person. As a Jew, as a Muslim, as a Christian, So in order to be accepted, you refer to God. If you're a Christian, to Jesus. You refer to the Torah. All these things, because in your community. But what's interesting here, he makes this book. First of all, he thinks almost a bit scientific, saying, "Okay, leave it. It's yourself, it's your soul, it's your will that does it." But also, he cannot blame it. So he doesn't blame anything on the devil. He doesn't blame anything on. He doesn't say you pray and then you'll be strong. He's talking about training yourself, and in that way, he makes it. How do you say? Universal. So everybody can use the same. Even if you say it's because Moses taught us, or because the Torah taught us, or if he was a Muslim, Muhammad told us, then that does become useful for people who reject that, saying, "I don't believe in Torah, so I'm not going to read this book. Give me another book." So he makes this really universal that everybody can actually use it to train themselves into becoming a better person, which really, really very remarkable for his day. It's really remarkable. Thank you so much, Cassandra. Brittany, are you there?
Yes.
Ah.
So, sure. Ibn Gabriel also wrote a philosophical work called Fountain of Life. The original Arabic is lost. For many centuries, it was only known in the Latin translation called Fons Vitae.
Vitae.
The author of Fons Vitae was indicted as someone by the name of Avisbron.
Avisebron is what they called him, because Bron, Brol, Ibn Gabirol, Ibn Sebrol, whatever, Sebron. So Avisebron. Nobody knew who that was.
It was always assumed that this was a Muslim or a Christian philosopher. Only in the 19th century, when a Hebrew translation of Ibn Gabirol's book was discovered, did it become clear that Avisebron was really Ibn Gabirol.
Gabirol, right. Very good. Yeah.
One true masterpiece in Ibn Gabirol's The Royal Crown. It is a poem consisting in 40 stanzas that describe the relationship between humans and God, in which God is metaphorically described as a king in his palace. It contains philosophical notions of God who is beyond understanding and description. But this doesn't stop Ibn Gabirol from praising him with beautiful poetry.
He also uses philosophy and uses all kind of stuff. Just read this stanza, if you don't mind.
Sure. You are the supreme light, and the eyes of pure of soul shall behold you. But clouds of sin shall hide you from the eyes of sinners. You are the light hidden in this world and revealed in the higher world of beauty. On the mountain of the Lord it shall be seen.
These last lines in blue that are in italic, those are quotes from the Bible most of the time.
You are the eternal light, and the inward eye yearns for you and is astonished. She shall see but the utmost part of it, but not see it entirely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yes, maybe you can also read this.
Sure. My God, I know that those who plead for you for grace and mercy need that all their deeds should go before and wait for them at heaven's door. But I have no good deeds to bring, no righteousness for offer, no service for my Lord and King.
Yeah, so it's a praise. That's not from the. Is it from the Keter Malchut, from the Royal Crown? I'm not even sure anymore. Okay, I think it is from the Royal Crown also. Okay, this one.
Yet do not hide from me your face, nor cast me out far from your grace. But when you command my life to cease, oh, may you lead me forth in peace to the world to come to dwell among your pious ones who tell your inexhaustible glories.
Mm-hmm.
There let my portion be with those who in eternal life arose, to purify my heart there right, in your light to see the light. Raise me from the deepest depths to share endless joys of praise and prayer, that I may evermore declare, though you were angered, Lord, my praise I give to thee, for now your wrath is past, and you do comfort me.
Yeah, so it is a Royal Crown, because Royal Crown is, as you see in the next slide, probably, I think, is read by some communities on Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is about forgiveness. So it ends basically very much with that. It's a remarkable piece. Mm-hmm. And this is the slide that tells you that. Yes?
Traditionally, the royal crown is read in Sephardi communities in the evening or early in the morning of the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur.
Yeah, maybe we can continue together, Brittany, because I only have a few minutes left. Oh boy, yeah, too bad. It's always time goes too fast. Yeah.
Ibn Gabirol also wrote liturgically poetry meant to be recited within the actual prayer. For this purpose, Ibn Gabirol wrote a poetic embellishment of the prayer for rain to be inserted in the fall during closing festivals at the end of Sukkot. He also wrote a prayer for dew to be recited in the spring on the first day of Passover.
Yeah, so this is inserted in the Amidah, in the main prayer. Now you see the red, that is his name, Shlomo, the first letters. And this is basically, as you see, it's in this is the first prayer, if you know the prayer of the Amidah, the first prayer, but then you have the insertion in dark on the English side. And there's a beautiful tune, but I don't have time to sing it. Lucky you. Okay. Here another one has his name. This is in the second blessing, the second benediction. And I love the tune very much. It's very contemplative. It's very beautiful. I'm sure different communities have different tunes. I've also noticed that I was once at a Syrian synagogue, and they have taken it out of the Amidah, out of the main prayer, because at a certain point the idea has evolved that you cannot change anything to the prayer. So it was read outside of the prayer. But if you would study this, you would see that it really fits into the prayer, because the last word of a certain stanza taps into the words of the Amidah prayer. This is a continue. We don't have time to read the whole thing. I hope you read on your own. And this is all about I'm just gonna not control myself and just read this little bit. Go in peace, O rain, and come in peace, O dew. This is the beginning of the spring. It's like half a year from now, at the end of the winter. For you're a mighty Savior who sends down the dew. Lech l'shalom geshem ubo l'shalom tal, ki rab l'hoshia umorid hatal. Ashim shirati ve'asiem dibrati ve'agbir asifati l'tzur yeshuati ubyom imrati hitizal hatal kirab lehoshia umorid hatal. It's a bit like the tune of the Hatikva. Da 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 dum dum dum. It's a bit the same, right? Okay, and then and this is beautiful. It's kind of cool. God of our fathers is on the alphabet, so it is the main letter on the first line is the A, then B, then C. God of our fathers, with dewdrops of light, enlighten the land. With dewdrops of blessings, bless the land. I once had a student who wrote an essay on this, and he was into rap. So he said, this is like medieval Hebrew rap. With dewdrops of light, enlighten the land. With dewdrops of blessing, bless the land. Dewdrops of joy, rejoice in the land. So I can't see your faces if you're laughing and all this. So hard to teach with no faces and no sound, that everybody muted. I'm just talking to myself, but I'm having a blast. Okay. And then it continues here. This is the whole thing. Now, the last one I'm going to end with. This is a song. Even Karaites sometimes use Ibn Gabirol's poems. And this is there's a poem called Sha'arecha, which means your gates, and that's it's not really, as far as I know, and anyone uses it in the liturgy, in the service, but the Karaites do. They sing it on Shabbat morning before the service starts. It's like a bakasha. But the Rabbinites do have a version of it, even though it's in their tradition. I don't think it's used, as I said. But the two versions are different. Now, if you can compare them if you want, if you know Hebrew. So there are differences. It turns out that the beginning there's differences where the Rabbinites are more correct, or the Karaites are more correct, and in the end there's a difference where the Rabbinites, because we found the original basically. See here, this is the original that we found in an old trove, basically, of discarded documents, manuscripts. It's called the Cairo Geniza. And so we could actually see. So then we see that Karaites are part of it original and Rabbinites are part of it original. But only the Karaites have maintained the Arabic meter that we talked about last week. And here is it sounds. There's a tune that the Karaites sing it in, and here's the tune. Put it loud.
שעריך בדופקים יפתח ועם טוב כשואל יד שלך לך תבוא תפילתי בשבי מקום כבש ויסרון למנחה מאור עיני רצה ושמור לבבי נטה אוזן וגם עין פקח הרים אותי לך עיני וליבי ואם אשגה לפניך סלחה וירא ויאמר מה נורא המקום הזה אין זה כי אם בית אלוהים וזה שער השמיים אשרי אדם שומע לי לשקוד עד דלתותיי יום
but I will post it also. You can listen to it. It's fun. And then you can also look at the words and then feel it out. Okay, so as to be, what time is it, guys? Ooh, okay, hope you give me 2 more minutes. Here he praises, Ibn Gabirol praises Samuel haNagid as the new Dunaj ibn Labrat, and he is praising him into heaven, right? Eden, but then, oh, and here also, this is a praise to Samuel Ibn haNagid. How come I have so little time? It's crazy. I thought I had, okay. But then he also gets into a conflict with Samuel haNagid, and then he mocks him. He says here, "Figures is your poem and impressive in its wording and its matter. We liked it so much that we sent it by a messenger to Egypt." Okay, I liked it so much that I sent it far away, and I gave it to jolly drinkers to bellow it among their cups. So these people who can really appreciate it are the stupid drinkers who have no brain. And they had engraved it on the shields of warriors and fighting men. Woe betide the fallen poem, verses irredeemable, meaning the poem is no good. By a man who chases wind, his belly full of vapor, that is Shemu'el haNagid, he's full of air. Truly, every substance seeks his own, and each kind reverts to its kind. Meaning, your poem sucked, just like you suck. This is an extremely insulting poem. Moses Ibn Ezra, who's a rabbi who lived after him, says his temperament dominated his intellect. He could not control the demon that was inside himself. He often ridiculed the great, shooting at them salvos of mockery and sarcasm. So he created a lot of enemies, and he's sometimes called the vulture in the cage. He's had this ugly inclination. Okay, people are leaving me. I see they're checking out. We're almost here. So he wandered from place to place. He had no one to protect him anymore. We don't know what happened. Now the end of the story is quite dramatic. It's quite dramatic. So Samuel haNagid dies. His son becomes a Nagid, but there is a lot of envy and anger among the Muslim community that these Jews are so powerful. They go against the Pact of Omar, and it's not appreciated. There's a poem here saying these people, the kings, to stay away from these evil-smelling, unclean people. I mean the Jews, who God have cursed. And here, because of the Nagid, because of this Jew, the Jews have become great and proud and arrogant. They're among the most dishonorable. How many worthy Muslims humbly obey this vilest ape? So very, very harsh words. And here, Abu Ishaq was also a famous writer. He actually says that it's okay to kill them. So you can see something is brooding in the air, very bad. Now there is a massacre. Joseph Ibn Gabirol is killed. His dead body is crucified to the city gate, and the whole community is massacred on December 31 of that year, on 1066. We don't know. That was the end of the great Granada community, wait, that's it. So that was the end of the story. Thank you for hanging in there. We'll see each other again on Thursday. Hopefully. Good. Everybody, thank you for your attention.